Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I'm Mary Grace, and we are live. This is Wednesday, the 24th of November, 2021. We have a lot to talk about today, and I'm going to go over those things in just a minute. Couple of things I'm going to get to, and let me just see if I can get okay. Um, just looking at my list here. So welcome in. As you're coming in, say hello. Hello to my moderators. And as you're here, share this. If you are on a platform where you can tag somebody like Facebook, please do that. I appreciate everybody who's sharing my posts. I have had a tremendous increase in viewership in the past few days. I don't know if that's because Facebook, all of the little minions over at Facebook that do all the censoring are on vacation, or if they're short staffed. I don't know what it is, but they've taken the throttle off. And so we've gotten more viewers somehow, miraculously, thank God. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But a couple things that I want to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about just some things that the Lord is showing me in regards of some of the issues that have come up on social media in terms of different personalities coming into disagreement with some things. I wanted to talk about that. I'm going to talk about a little bit about what the Lord, I think, is saying about that and our responses to it. I'm also going to talk about the Mike Lindell case that's coming before the Supreme Court. And hey, Donna. And then I want to talk about something that the Last Refuge posted on Twitter. It was a very interesting observation about what happened with this individual that drove through the parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I think that's the way you say it. Did I say it right? It was a very hard word for me, but because I'm not there. But I wanted to talk about that, and I might talk about the oil reserves, about what's going on with that. It's very interesting. There's so much going on with this regime. If it's not obvious to you yet, the things that they are doing are not incompetence. It's actually intentional. So we'll get to that at some point in the show. And okay, did I say Waukesha correctly? Thank you, Delia. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Here we go. Now, before I get started, first of all, if you're watching the show live, please participate in the chat. And if you come to watch the replay, please leave a comment, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Clout Hub, YouTube, whatever. I'm on Clout Hub on channel 111. You can follow my channel over there. You can also follow my profile, Mary Grace Media. I am on Twitter, Real Mary Grace 1. And it turns out if you go to Periscope, it's Real Mary Grace. You can follow me there. And then I am on Facebook and YouTube as Mary Grace Media. If you want to follow my Telegram channel, it's Mary Grace Media Official. And I have a website, marygracemedia.com. Now, a couple things I wanted to say about my show, because there are new people. And sometimes I think when people come to watch me, they don't exactly know what to expect. So I want to let you know a little bit about me and what to expect when you watch my show. And this might help if you explain my show to people. So I do what I would consider just commentary and teaching and inspiration. And I do that. I mostly comment. I provide commentary on current events and politics. And I bring what I believe is a kingdom, Christian kingdom perspective into my commentary and observations. And I also, try to elicit a response and a call to action from my listeners. And so I'm not here to break hard news. I'm not a researcher per se. I am not going to dig into court cases and go line by line about those things, about filings, about lawsuits and things like that. Um, I, even if I go and read something on the Federal Register, I'm usually gonna speed read it. So that's how I do things. But I catch a lot, and I think that God has given me an ability to really read a situation and to interpret it and to give people to take the data points that I see and extrapolate the things that I believe are important to understand and to help people navigate the many, many, many data points that are thrown at us on a daily basis. That's what I think that my role is here. And some of you may may think it's different, but that's kind of what I see my role as. And one of the things that I ask, if you're watching my show and you're participating in the chat, I do ask that when I am talking about a specific topic, especially if I'm really deep into teaching mode, that you stay on topic in the chat. In other words, if I'm talking about uh, schools and school boards, and I'm teaching people how to get involved or something like that, and you come in and start talking about the cargo ships off the coast of California, it's basically the equivalent of walking into somebody's kitchen or living room when people are in an in-depth conversation and interrupting and trying to take over the conversation. You may not see it that way. And there are live streams where people just chat away and they shoot the breeze and they talk about whatever they want. I happen to watch the chat when I'm talking. And I want people to interact, and I want people to get involved and to focus on what it is that I'm teaching. Maybe that's because I'm a teacher. Uh, so there will be times if you come in and try to steer the conversation to what you want, I am going to ask you gently not to do that. And that is that's because it's my channel for one thing. And the same thing goes for my Telegram channel and my chat. If you have an agenda, if you have something that's really important to you, by all means, have that conversation, but do it in your own chat room. Set up your own chat. And likewise, set up your own channel so that you can discuss and talk about the things that are important to you. That's why we have all of these avenues and platforms available to us. And so that's just one thing that I ask. And then the other thing that I ask is that that you don't type in all caps, or that you be very judicious in your decision to use all caps, and that you do it in line with what's grammatically correct, not just because you can't turn off the caps lock on your keyboard. Occasionally, I have people who are who are visually impaired, and that's just the way that they have to type, and I get that. But for the most part, some people just do it, and it sounds like shouting. It looks like shouting when it's written down, and that's actually what all caps are intended for. And so, if everything you type is in all caps, it's literally like listening to somebody shout every word they say. Again, that's my preference. You can open a different channel if you prefer to do everything in all caps. That's up to you. And so I want to welcome everybody now that we got a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. Oh, and how do you get in touch with me? That's the last thing. So I told you how to follow me. The other thing is, if you want to contact me, it's info@marygracemedia.com. I do respond to emails. If you write something super, super long, it's likely that I'm going to respond with a very short response, just so you know. And just because of time, because if everybody did that, I don't have an assistant doing that. So just keep that in mind. And what else? Before I forget, listen, though a lot of you guys have really taken advantage of being able to purchase superfoods through me, and I also now have a CBD brand that I am representing. And this is a great time to buy because there are lots of specials our CBD company is having lots of buy one, get one specials. It looks like they're changing the specials every day. Yesterday, it was buy 2 oils, get 1 free. I took advantage of that. I think today they're featuring some of the hemp hair care, which I haven't tried, but a lot of people tell me they really love it. And so how do you get that information? How do you get the link to buy? You write to me at info@marygracemedia.com, info@marygracemedia.com. And the thing about the superfoods is if you write to me, I'm going to send you not only a coupon code to save over $100 off of your 30-day supply, but I'm also going to send you information about what makes our superfoods so special and why it's such a good investment in your health, especially right now. I mean, the food prices are up astronomically, and our superfoods prices haven't gone up. And so that's just something to think about. Now, the noise that you hear in the background, if you're new, that is my cat. That's our cat, Barley George. And he's incredibly vocal. He has a very good set of lungs. He was a stray, and here he is. He's on the show. Okay, here's Barley. That was so funny. Yeah, he's a little irritated right now because he wants my attention. And anyway, he was actually a stray. He was found in a raccoon trap. And I imagine that the way he was found was that he was loud. And God gave him a good set of lungs so that he wouldn't be left for dead. Now he's trying to get my water, which has a cover on it, and so he'll be doing that, and then he'll be knocking things off of the desk. So that's Barley. He's massive. He's huge. Yeah. Okay. Stop. This is Barley. I wish you could see him right now. He's right there. He's on the desk. He just leaps up from, okay, we got to cover that up. Now, it's like having a toddler, basically. I have to keep giving him things to distract him. Can anybody relate? All right, so here we go. See what I mean about the Mary Grace clothing line. If you write to me, I'll tell you some of my wardrobe secrets. I actually shop at the thrift stores, some, not always, but I do thrifting. I found some really good things. Some of my favorite things ever I found at thrift stores. Now, before I go, before I get any further, let's please share this. It looks like the numbers are really low right now. It seems to grow as the show goes on. But also, before I forget, oh, here we go. All right. I guess we're just going to live with that. No, you can't get on the piano. Hold on, guys. No. So he's trying to get on the piano. Stop. He gets on the piano and he like bangs the keys and then he pushes all the buttons, even though there's a cover. So I have to watch him. Okay. All right. Couple things. One, speaking of clothing, I got the greatest shirt in the mail. One of you guys sent me something in the mail. I have a P.O. box, which you can find on my website. Oh, that's where he got bit. Look, check it out. Somebody sent me this shirt. I mentioned at some point that, I'm not really a hugger. I'm not like a public hugger. When I used to go to Bible study, there was a woman at the door that would always want to hug people. And I would lie going into Bible study and say, oh, I think I'm coming down with something. I don't think you should hug me. Because one of the main reasons is I don't like having people's perfume on me. It gets on your hair, it gets on your clothes, and I'm really, really sensitive to that. But also, I just don't like to hug really random strangers. So anyway, somebody sent me this shirt, and I don't know who it was. I can't even thank you because there was no note in the package. But this is the funniest shirt, and when it gets warmer, I'm going to wear it. Okay, can you guys see it? Can you see it? Isn't that the funniest thing? It's a little, right now Barley's trying to get it. It's a little porcupine and it says not a hugger. I think it's so cool. So I don't know who sent me that, but thank you. Yeah, Barley is totally a toddler. He totally is. Okay. Now, anyway, so thank you to whoever sent that. I really, that was just really cool. Is it a hedgehog? I can't tell. Hedgehog or porcupine. But yeah, I'm gonna totally wear this. I think if I ever rejoin the Bible study, I'm gonna wear this, and then all I have to do is like point to it when I walk in, and the lady. I mean, there's people that are like that. Like Millie. Millie's not here right now. She's probably cooking Thanksgiving dinner, but she's a hugger. Like she'll hug you because that's just Millie. Not so much here. I hug my family, but yeah, introvert versus extrovert. That's a big one right there. Just because I talk a lot doesn't mean that I'm not an introvert. So I just like to size things up. But anyway, so thank you for that. And then the other thing before I get into the content today is I wanted to just take a minute to remember something because the holidays are an incredibly hard time for people who are going through stuff. Not only is the are we having less daylight, which always has an impact on people's moods, but it's just the time when people gather with family and they all of the emotions come up. And so specifically, I wanted to ask you to pray for our friend Shannon in Arizona. We were praying for her husband Matt, who passed away um, in October, and he had been hospitalized for quite a long time. He had a lot of health problems, but in addition to that, he got COVID, and so he was isolated from his family until the very end there, and they got to see him. So pray for her. They have 3 children, and they just had a memorial service for him recently. And so this is their first Thanksgiving without him. And there are a lot of people who are going into their first Thanksgiving without their loved ones. This is, and a lot of it is even more bitter. The bitterness is there because people have not been able to say goodbye to their loved ones because of what's been happening in the hospitals. And so I really want to remember them. And I also want to remember the lonely people who are alone. A lot of people, especially because of COVID, because of everything that's happened, there are more people who are alone than before. There are some people through no fault of their own, through different circumstances, just find themselves alone. And I just want to remember those. The Bible says that the Lord sets the lonely in families. And so I just want to pray that those people would be remembered, that if you know somebody that's by themselves, that you would reach out to them. And if you're having a gathering at your home, invite that person over, and don't forget about them. And so I just wanted to encourage people to do that. Not only the orphans and the widows, but just remember that grown-up people who no longer have their parents are also orphans. And some people lose their parents even younger in life. They just don't have any family. And so just please remember those people and keep them in your prayers and reach out to them and have them in your home if you can do that. And this is coming from somebody that is an introvert. It's not natural for me to do that kind of thing, but it's just something that I wanted to encourage people to do. Okay. Now, let me jump into a topic that has been on people's minds, and that is, today or yesterday, Mike Lindell sent a case to the Supreme Court about the election, the stolen election, and I'm not going to go into great detail about this because I haven't read the case or the suit. I have not looked at the exhibits. But what I wanted to encourage you to do, there are a couple of people who have gone into depth on this, and let me just find. So a couple people are weighing in on this. If you want to look at at somebody at an in-depth analysis, I would go to Brian Cate's channel on Telegram. Now, I have mixed feelings about Brian. There are things that I feel he should never comment on, and that he really should stay in his lane about certain things. That being said, when it comes to his analysis of things like this, I do give him credit because he is he's pretty thorough. I wish that he would use better punctuation, but that's another story. So, but I would encourage you to look at him. The other one who does in-depth analysis is Tracy Beans. And again, certain things I would recommend that they just stay in their lane. But when it comes to this type of in-depth analysis on these types of things, I would encourage you to look at their channels. Now, from a bigger perspective, I want to tell you something that Praying Medic said, and I think this is important because I want people to be prepared for the understanding that our court system is largely a captured operation, our justice system. We would like for it to function the way that the Founding Fathers delineated that it function. However, what we know and what we've seen is that the judges, from local circuit courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, many of them are bought and paid for, and in many cases blackmailed. And I want people to go into this with an understanding that that may be the case. And because the demands that are being made in this suit are pretty specific, very specific. One of the things that they are asking is that the justices, and I may get the wording wrong on this, but that the election results be nullified because of the certification issues with the voting machines. In other words, based on the evidence that we've seen from Arizona and other places, the machines themselves, and this is based on testimony and research presented by Dr. Shiva, the machines themselves are compromised, and because they have not been properly certified, you cannot certify an election that has been run and tabulated on uncertifiable machines. You just can't do it. That's like it's like if somebody gets caught speeding, but the speedometer is miscalibrated, then the speeding doesn't hold up. And if every car is equipped with faulty speedometers, then you can't actually charge anybody ever with speeding. That's kind of a weak analogy, but I'm just trying to get you to understand if the machine itself is faulty and it's not certifiable, and in many cases, these machines haven't been properly certified ever at different locations. Their argument is that because of that, the entire election should be nullified, and that that the is it the 12th Amendment should kick in, and that the president should be chosen by the House of Representatives. I'm getting my numbers reversed. It's either the 21st or the 12th. But in that case, if neither candidate has 270 electoral votes, if they're both under that number, then the Constitution dictates that the election would be decided, that the president would be decided by the House of Representatives, with each state getting one vote. That state is compelled to vote according to the majority in their own state legislature. There are many more Republican dominant states. There are many more Republican dominant states than there are Democrat. And so that would mean that Donald Trump would automatically be elected president by the Congress. And that's one of the demands that they're making. For example, uh, what what we believe may happen. This is something that I tend to agree with Praying Medic on, and that is this. He says he wrote this. He said, 30,000-foot view. I'm doubtful that SCOTUS will give a favorable ruling on the case presented yesterday, not because the suit lacks merit, but because the court lacks moral courage. And we've seen that over and over. I hope I'm wrong. I'm also doubtful that states will decertify the election. So another one of the demands that's being made in this suit is that the court would compel the state legislatures to decertify their elections. My view is that the military will ultimately fix the problem, but other entities must first be given a chance to do the right thing. And I tend to agree with him here, and I believe that this is one of the reasons that he is continually, that President Trump is continually calling for the states to do the right thing and calling for attorneys general around the country to do the right thing, to step up and do the right thing. If you remember the phone call that he had with Brad Raffensperger back in late fall, I think it was, early winter, he had this call, and was it Brad or was it Brian Kemp? I can't remember. Either one. They're one of those liars down in Georgia. President Trump was asking him outright, about what was going on and where the votes were. And this person was just lying to him. And President Trump said, "Are you sure?" And, the Marxist, leftist controlled media took that to mean that the president was trying to get him to fabricate votes. No, what the president was trying to do was to get him to admit that they had fabricated votes out of thin air, and that the votes that the legitimate votes, which were there for President Trump, had been suppressed. That is what President Trump was trying to do, and we've seen him do this over and over. I also believe that bringing the cases before the courts in different states and also the Supreme Court, that is a good faith attempt at trying to get the different branches of government to do the right thing, to step up and do the right thing. And when that fails, in the absence of that, when it's painfully obvious that these institutions have been captured, that they are no longer functioning the way the founding fathers designed them to function, at that point, the military, who have sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution from all traitors, both foreign and domestic, they would step in. And this is something that Praying Medic talked about on my show pretty extensively last week. This is something that is covered in the concept of devolution by a researcher called Patriot, and he has a Telegram channel. And I would encourage you to go and look at that. Go look at the episode that I put up last week with Praying Medic. That's also on Rumble right now. I forgot. I'm on Rumble under Mary Grace Media. If you go and watch that episode, you will hear more discussion on why some of us think that it may get to the point where the media comes in to fix this. And here's something to think about too, that has been brought to my attention and that's crossed my mind. If you go back to the idea that the voting machines are compromised, and that, if, for example, the voting machines in Arizona are compromised, in Maricopa County where they did the audits, if those machines are not certified, if they've not been properly certified, and then that would render those results null and void. The bigger question becomes this. Well, if that's the case in Maricopa County, why wouldn't it be the case in pretty much every county that uses those machines? It's been proven and reported and documented that is a widespread issue, that the machines are not properly certified between elections, leading up to elections. And furthermore, those machines are largely produced by the same company, and in many cases, the states have employees from that company, which starts with a D. They have employees from that company actually running and managing those aspects of the machines. And so think about this, because if you have machines that are not properly certified, that would, without taking anything else into account, without taking phantom votes, without taking dead voters, without taking ballots that are printed in the middle of the night, it wouldn't matter, because even if you had a fair count, even in the absence of all of those other shenanigans and criminal activity, if states and counties and precincts around the country are working with uncertified machines, it doesn't matter how much integrity the ballots themselves have when you feed them into the machines. Are you following me? It just doesn't matter, because it renders every count, every result that comes out of those machines null and void. This is important to understand, because if you think about it, what does that mean? What is the larger implication of that? How long have we been using these machines? Think about the people that have gotten elected, and in many cases, in situations where it was you knew that it was impossible that that person got elected, and yet there they are. For example, Kristen Sinema, who got the Senate seat in Arizona, when the governor, when they voted majority Republican for the governor, and then all of a sudden they switched over and voted for a Democrat for Senate. It just didn't make sense. And so I think it's important that people understand this, because what this implies is that there could be, it could very well be that most of the people in Congress are not there legitimately. Most of the people in the Senate, most of the governors, all of these races that are counted and tabulated using these machines that have not been properly certified are really like moot. The result should be null and void. Where does that leave us as a country? It certainly throws us into a constitutional crisis, doesn't it? I don't have an answer for where that leaves us, but it's definitely something to think about, to pray about, because the people, we need wisdom as a nation on how best to proceed. Now, here's the other thing. Because the media is the propaganda arm of the deep state, of the cabal, we have a big challenge on our hands. I believe that the media will be turned. I believe that we will get enough people in the media turned that we will be able to get the truth out. But that's something to pray about, because they're not going to give up that position. The enemy has captured that position, and they've been holding it for quite some time. And, anybody with, a shred of consciousness understands that they just lie, that they just flat out lie. But there are a lot of people who have not become aware of that yet, and they take every word that the media says at face value. I mean, I was reading the local paper yesterday, and the story about the man who drove his car into the middle of the Christmas parade in Waukesha. I read the story as presented by the AP off the wires in the local paper. And it said that he was fleeing the scenes. He had fled the scene of a domestic disturbance just moments earlier, which was a big fat lie. There's eyewitness testimony that this man intentionally drove into this market, and that he had been driving slowly, and then he sped up. And so everything that people are saying, and even the charges that have been brought against him, are not, it does not line up with what's being reported in the paper. And the thing is, this article came out yesterday. The information about what about this man's intention and the way that he acted was already available before this story went to press, and nobody bothered to fact check it uh, or correct it. And that's what people are reading. That's what people are reading at their kitchen table, who are still getting the paper, and that's a problem. Now, here's something that I want to pivot to something for a minute. I want to talk to you about the Bible, and I want to talk to you about a story that happened early in the history of the Israelites, and that is that in the day of Samuel, Samuel was a prophet and a judge, and in the beginning of the history of the Israelites, they didn't have kings, they didn't have presidents or kings. They had priests. I'm sorry, Samuel was a priest. They didn't have kings. They had priests and judges. And but what happened is that Samuel, let me just go back and read the story for you. Oops, hold on. Okay, so Samuel was the priest, and this is what happened in 1 Samuel 8. It says, so Samuel was getting old, all right? It says, then the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, behold, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, obey the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them. That's a huge indictment. And this is something that has really come to my mind over the past 24 hours, that I was really praying about this, because something has come up that has gotten people sort of picking sides and getting into factions over something. And I'll get to the something in just a minute. But I was asking the Lord about it, and he said to me, but the people wanted a king. That was the phrase that I heard. That's what I titled today's broadcast. And so I want to talk about this, because the reactions that I'm seeing and the way that people are acting is concerning. And this is why. Let me tell you the situation. Kyle Rittenhouse did an interview with Tucker Carlson on Sunday night. And in that interview, he talked about how his lawyers had kept him in jail for 87 days. And he named Lin Wood as one of those lawyers. And he came out specifically and said that. And Lin Wood caught when what happened? So this became the story. It's almost like Lin Wood became the story, in spite of the fact that this was about Kyle Rittenhouse. And Tucker Carlson didn't correct him. He didn't push back on it at all, which I thought was interesting, because Tucker is good at pushing back. We've seen him do that a lot. That's what he's known for, and he didn't push back. But then what happened is that, it started becoming the headline, and a reporter from the Daily Beast called Lin Wood and wanted to interview him about it. And Lin had not actually seen the interview, but Lin basically put him in his place and said, "Hey, Millie in the chat is saying Lin was interviewed. Is Lin? What do you mean Lin was interviewed? Are you saying he's been interviewed by Tucker? Can you clarify?" I'm telling you based on what I've seen in the past 24 hours. So long story short, so Lin has actually talked about this before. There have been people who have accused him. There have been people who have accused him of underhanded actions with regard to Kyle Rittenhouse's bail and the money that was raised through the Fight Back Foundation. And people in the MAGA movement have attacked him over this. And I don't want to get into the weeds on all of the details, but let's just jump to the fact that on Sunday night and Monday, the preceding day, there were people who came out, prominent figures who came out strongly in support of Lin Wood and just, vouching for his character. Some were trying to even explain the way that custody works. For example, that the lawyer isn't actually the one who decides custody. It is the judge. Also, the fact that Lin Wood was not a criminal defense lawyer, and so he wasn't actually the lawyer on that case. According to him, he had arranged to represent Kyle on the defamation side down the road when the case was, finished, or if it was, when the time was right, when the time was appropriate. And so, a lot of people came out in support of of Lin Wood. One of the people who did not come out immediately in support of him was General Flynn, and so there was this big question mark over this. And Lin Wood actually brought into question some of General Flynn's actions. Now, again, you can go to Lin Wood's timeline and you can read his things, all of it, what he's written on Telegram. He's very upfront about everything, and he's talked about this before. This is not the first time he has addressed this. General Flynn yesterday posted. General Flynn posted yesterday that he posted the interview, the audio recording of Lin Wood's interview with the Daily Beast, and he said something to the effect that this is Lin Wood in his own words: "The truth always has a way of coming out." And it was neither an endorsement nor a denial. And yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene came out with a scathing rebuke of Lin Wood, which brings into question a whole lot of other things. And it doesn't surprise me that she did that. She actually said he should be arrested. But, and then the other thing, I also heard yesterday, but I haven't confirmed this, that Kyle Rittenhouse did another interview where he actually was calling Lin Wood crazy and saying that, he was basically defaming him. And I found that to be very ironic because Kyle is doing right now to Lin Wood exactly what was done to him. And I don't know who all, I don't know who all his handlers are who are telling Kyle to say this. But, he has a publicist. It's Gillian Anderson. I don't know. I think that Kyle believes what he's saying. I think that Kyle believes what he's saying to be true. But let's just remember that, if you go back to the interview that Kyle did, in the interview, Tucker asks him if he had been aware of, the way that media works, and just how vicious people could be, and how, how people could treat people like that, and bring accusations and just assume that a person is guilty until proven innocent, and denying them of due process. And Kyle said no, he had no idea. He wasn't aware of how the media worked. And I think that bears consideration. I think it's important to keep that in consideration, because this is a young man who has been, who was 17 at the time that this happened. I think that he has a great deal of maturity for his age, but he hasn't lived that long on this earth, and he wasn't aware of what was actually happening in the media. A lot of it, I think that he was sheltered from a lot of it, which I think is okay. That a young kid in high school is sheltered from that. But what I wanted to emphasize here is that now I've got somebody in the YouTube, Ryan, who's trying to litigate the case against Lin. I don't really want to get into the weeds on this. I know I saw what you said about how Dilly had the receipts against Lin. I think that having a conversation with Lin about that, and I think that Lin has done interviews about that where he explained his reasoning for recommending that they keep Kyle in Indiana. That is something that I'm not going to litigate it right now. But what I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to Kyle. And that is that Kyle is young. He's not seasoned in this game. And he was put on national TV 48 hours after, a little over 48 hours after his acquittal. And he was saying these things about Lin Wood. I think that I just think it's interesting. I think there's a lot more going on there that he just doesn't know. And I'm surprised that whoever is coaching him and handling him is even telling him and feeding him that information. I'm surprised that it's even coming into the conversation, to be quite honest. Because the people that were raising money for him, the people that have been working and raising money and contributing, are not his enemies. Let's just be clear about that. The people that were crucifying Kyle Rittenhouse in the media were not Lin Wood and the Patriots. There may be disagreement about some of the facts of the case, but I think it's incumbent upon incumbent upon Kyle Rittenhouse's team, his publicist, his PR team, to understand that. And so there's only two things that I can conclude about what happened there, what's happening with this attack on Lin Wood. One is that it was just gross incompetence on the part of the personnel of the public relations team or individual, that they just don't know enough to know or to fact check, or even they could have just talked to Lin Wood. They could have talked to the other lawyers. All right, that's one theory. The other possibility is that it's just an outright attack, and that they're trying to destroy Lin Wood. I mean, you have to draw your own conclusions. I'm just telling you what the two possibilities are. I don't think there's a gray area here. And so that brings me to what I've seen. I mean, even right now in the chat, we have people who are getting into the weeds about what Lin Wood did or didn't do. And I just want to encourage everybody right now to just put on the brakes, stop for just a minute, and understand something. First of all, if Lin Wood is lying, the truth is going to come out, and he's going to bear the responsibility for that. And that's really between him and the people that he may or may not have hurt. It's also between him and God. If the other side is lying, the truth is going to come out. One way or another, the truth will come out. And the people that are doing that hopefully will be brought to account. The bigger picture here, however, is that we have patriots who are concerned with restoring rule of law and righting the wrongs of the election theft that happened in 2020, and really maintaining and restoring order in our country. That, for the most part, and protecting our Second Amendment, all of our constitutional rights, that we have a lot of common ground. And this situation is a glaring example of how easy it is to bring division in the ranks. It is also a glaring example of the fact that it's so easy, and it's human nature for people to pick a hero, to pick a person that they want to put all of their faith in. And this is why I brought up the story about the people demanding a king. And this is what God showed me, that, this is a problem that we've been seeing for quite some time, especially in the conservative ranks. For the longest time, and the reason that some people rejected Donald Trump, is that conservatives have always applied a religious test to people that they were going to elect. Is this person pious and religious enough to lead our country? They were looking for a pastor, not a president. Right now, there is a massive tendency for people to latch on to a personality and to elevate that person to a place of idolatry, whether it's Donald Trump or General Flynn or Lin Wood, or any politician, any elected leader, any charismatic individual. And this is something that I'm seeing right now. And what's happening is that because people are focusing on edifying, and not even just edifying, because people are putting their hope in an individual, that they are completely losing sight of the bigger picture here, which is that our country is at war. And most of the institutions in our country are captured operations that the patriots desperately are trying to liberate from the grip of the enemy. But because people have gotten this myopic view, have developed this habit of latching on to individuals within our movement and allowing any little upset to completely distract them from the larger and bigger picture at hand, it has actually it's actually giving the enemy so much success. I mean, the amount of the things that I've been seeing in chats and comments over the past few days, just the back and forth about these people, about Lin Wood, about what he did, about General Flynn, all of this, the mudslinging is just, it's disturbing. It's disturbing to see that people are so easily swayed, and that they're losing their faith in the whole outcome and the whole enterprise, because all of a sudden the person that they thought was a hero is being questioned in the eyes of other people that they thought were heroes. This is a problem. I mean, this is an indictment on the priorities of the patriots, and especially if you call yourself a Christian, because the only king, and the Lord says it right here in the scripture, he says they are not rejecting you. He tells it to Samuel. He says, they aren't rejecting you. They're rejecting me as their king. And so by default, everybody who is hanging their pinning their hopes on any of these individuals to bring it across the line, to be their North Star, to put them in a position like that is by nature a rejection of God. It's idolatry. I just want to be clear about that. And I really want to caution people. I've seen this over and over and over again, this type of idolatry that people have attached to individuals who emerge as leaders in this movement, whether it's media personalities, whether it's political personalities, whether it's pundits, whether it's entertainers, whatever it is. I really want to urge and emphasize that we absolutely have to keep our eyes fixed on the Lord, our eyes fixed on Jesus. He is our Savior. That's it. And those of you who have allowed this to put you in a tailspin. I mean, I've seen comments like, that's it. I don't know who to trust anymore. Even like somebody saw a picture of President Trump with Kyle Rittenhouse and his mom, and then that lawyer, the one that Lin says is what's his name? I can't remember his name. David Pierce, is that his name? The one that Lin said basically is a criminal. And I think he's one of the people that's advising Kyle, that he managed to worm his way into a picture with President Trump. And somebody said, that's it. I can't trust President Trump. Think about how naive that statement is. President Trump gets photographed with people that he doesn't always choose. People pay money to get to events where they can get their picture with President Trump. Just because President Trump is standing there with his thumbs up next to somebody that you hate doesn't mean that President Trump is an ally of that person. Just think logically. I mean, do you understand how immature a statement like that is? I mean, we're adults here. And the other thing that I want to point out is that this is a statement that I saw in a chat. Why can't we all just get along for the greater good? People are in distress over this. I'm not discounting the fact that people are upset that someone that they like and follow has been maligned, or that there's fighting and squabbling and bickering going back and forth between people that we have actually looked up to and admired and listened to. I'm not discounting that, but there is a great deal of distress that I've observed. And one of the things that I really want to, I hope to drive this point home and help you to see what's going on here. When somebody says, can't we all just get along for the greater good? That is a collectivist statement. Just like the statement, I wish we could all just have unity. That's a collectivist statement. That statement comes from the same mindset of just wear the mask for the greater good. Just get the shot for the greater good. It's the same mindset. And you may not agree with me on this, but stick with me because I'm going to explain it, okay? Back when people started wearing the masks, I was one of the people who adamantly and vocally stood out against it. And a lot of the pushback I got was, I just don't want the hassle. I don't want to upset people. I don't want to stand out. In other words, I just want to get along for the greater good. And people were manipulated into thinking that what they were doing was for others. And I just want to tell you now. Let's take that statement, and I'm not picking on anybody personally. So if you're listening and you made that comment, I just happened to see it, but I've seen it many, many, many times in many different chats from different people. Okay, so just be clear, I'm not picking on any one person. And so here's what I want to say though. When somebody says, can't we just get along for the greater good? they're basically adopting an appeasement, a collectivist appeasement mentality, that it's not okay to stand out. It's not okay to stand up for something different. It's not okay to have a difference of opinion. It's not okay to argue and debate over things. It's not okay for somebody to fight back when they're attacked, or to engage in public disagreement or in discourse. And I really want to submit to you that that is really not at all in line with the way that our country was founded. Our founding fathers had fights. I mean, they even went some of them even ended up in a duel, and they publicly disagreed. They publicly debated. I mean, I would actually like to see some of these people get into a public debate and hash it out. I'd like to see that, because we have forgotten that that is the basis on which solutions and ideas come about. One of the things that I have heard about President Trump is that he actually likes to have people around him who don't agree with him. In other words, not yes men, because he wants to hear and understand opposing viewpoints. And this is something that it takes a lot of strength of character to be challenged in that way, and to stand up and embrace and invite disagreement. But go back to this idea that everybody has to get along. No, they don't. They don't. I mean, think about it. Saul and Paul and Barnabas didn't get along. They actually parted ways because they didn't agree on strategy for advancing the gospel. Think about that. But the world didn't fall apart. The gospel was advanced, and so, I just want to really, I want people to understand this, because our founding fathers didn't all get along. Furthermore, they didn't all agree specifically on how to on doctrine, on Christian doctrine. They had disagreements on points of doctrine. And that's important to understand. Not every patriot is not going to be a Christian. They are not all going to align with your worldview or your view of how Christianity should be practiced, if they even practice it at all. You can't put a religious test on people who value freedom and bodily autonomy and the Constitution. Yes, our Constitution was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Much of it was inspired by God, but there's nothing in the Constitution that says that you have to believe God in the same way that we do in order to be protected and to follow this Constitution. I think that's a critical point. It was so important that it was the very first amendment that they added to the Constitution. I hope that you're getting the message here, because this is a critical issue that continues to come to light. Everybody wants everybody to be the same. That is communism. That's a collectivist mindset. It's an appeasement mindset. This is why we're at the point where people are being forced to decide between keeping their job and taking the jab, because people have given in because they didn't want disagreement. They didn't want dissension, and they don't want to be the ones to stand up for what they believe in. And that's a poison. And, people aren't, it's uncomfortable. Okay. It makes you uncomfortable because you could never imagine yourself in that situation. You could never imagine yourself standing up like a Lin Wood and fighting back when people accuse you of things. You could never imagine standing up and having the spotlight on you because you dare to call out people who accuse you of things. And again, I'm not saying that that something might not come out to show that Lin Wood is wrong. I don't know. I tend to believe him, but the point is that he's standing up and fighting. And there are very few people that I see that there are very few people that I see doing that, that are willing to do that. And this is really where I want to challenge you guys. I want to challenge you to think and to dig deep about why it is that you're so uncomfortable about this public dispute that is coming, that is right there in your face. Some of you may not know about it. Some of you may not have been aware of it, but this is a big deal because A, our answer is God, and B, it is important for people to stand up. And if it's making you uncomfortable, I would really suggest, and I would ask you to dig deep and figure out why. Why is it so uncomfortable to see a public dispute like this? Yes, of course, it's giving the left ammunition against the conservatives. But you know what? They're going to attack us no matter what. And so I think that's kind of a lame excuse for not wanting people to fight. In fact, one of the things that going back to the leftist stance is and one of the reasons that I think it makes people uncomfortable, and I think the argument that it gives the left ammunition is a weak argument, is because they have for all intents and purposes squashed all public debate, and they have made it almost impossible for people to disagree with any stance that's not endorsed by the state, by the cabal. And so I think it's all the more important for us to set the example that you can have a public dispute and that it doesn't destroy the country, that it doesn't destroy you, that it actually gets ideas out there and it gets people into conversations that need to be have. David Hancock Millie was the person that was with the president. So this is what I really wanted to submit to you, that there's a much bigger picture here, and that if anything, I would use this as an example to question your own reactions and your own responses when you're faced with challenges and when you are put in a position of having to stand up for something that you believe in. And I think that, I could go on and on about this. I'm running over time here, but I want to look at your comments really quickly and just see. I think this is resounding with a lot of people. It may make people mad, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you being mad. I'm okay with you being disturbed and upset about what I've said. I am hoping that I'm grading some very deep-seated beliefs that may have gotten you into a state of passivity. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to shake that up. I'm hoping to rattle that cage of passivity, because we can't afford to be passive. And a lot of people are really uncomfortable with what they're seeing because they'd rather be passive. And just Ryan S. on YouTube, I just want to be clear, when I said that I'm not going to litigate this, I wasn't attacking you personally. I just wanted to let you know I saw your comments. I didn't want to take that line of conversation, okay, at that moment. I wanted to stay on task. Let's see. Okay. And I think one of the things that's important is that we want our country united. But one of the things that makes our country unique is that we are made of individuals, and that the uniqueness of each individual is such a it's the foundation of this country. That's so important. So united as a nation means that we are united around the ideals of the Constitution. All right. That doesn't mean that we all think the same about everything and that we don't disagree. That's so important to understand. Okay, so Sandra on Facebook, I want to address your comment. It was hard for me to believe that Lin Wood would raise money for Kyle and not get his bail. But like you said, we do not know who is telling Kyle this. I will wait for the truth to come out. Yeah. So Sandra, if you go to Lin Wood's Telegram, he actually has the receipts, and he's explained multiple times how the bail thing worked. He actually personally signed a promissory note for somebody that put up some of the bail. Um, Kyle did get bail posted. And I think that people need to research and understand how bail works. When bail is posted, the person that it was posted for doesn't keep the money. The money wasn't raised to give. My understanding of it is the money wasn't raised so that Kyle could have $2 million. That's not how it works. The bail is posted and then it's returned to the person that posts it. It is a good faith down payment, as it were, to guarantee the person's that the person is, gonna comply. I guess I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the legal terms for this, but please understand this. There was no the money was never raised um, uh, for him to get the money in his pocket. I don't understand your question, Ryan, about that. Okay. So again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this. I really wanted to address the larger issue at hand. And I hope that I've done that. I hope that it has given you food for thought today. And I wanted to let you know my schedule for the next few days. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so let's be thankful. I'm not going to do a show. I'm going to be probably shooting guns and eating turkey or something like that. But I will be back on Monday. I will be back on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then Wednesday and Thursday of next week. And I hope to be uploading some more interviews with people as well. So that's my schedule. And then again, please write to me, info@marygracemedia.com, if you want to get information about how to order CBD and how to get superfoods. This is such an amazing gift that you can give to people, especially all of it. But one thing about the CBD is if you have somebody that deals with a lot of pain, whether it's fibromyalgia or any autoimmune condition, I urge you to get this full spectrum CBD that we have. It's amazing. So it's info@marygracemedia.com. Somebody's asking if the range is open on Thanksgiving Day. Private property. I live mostly around the countryside. Okay, Ryan is clarifying here. Ryan said the bail was raised 3 months before they posted it. He was in jail for 3 extra months. I'm not so sure about that because I remember them not having all of it. I think we'd have to go back and research that. Because I do remember that. And I remember that Ricky Schroeder came through with some of it. And I also remember that Mike Lindell came through. So it was a combination of people contributing and getting up to the 2 million, I think. So I don't know if they had reached that mark before he was out. And again, I don't know how we can attribute, that decision to Lin Wood. I think it's to keep him incarcerated. I don't know how we're blaming that on Lin Wood. I think people really should, dig in on this and not just take Kyle's word for it, because I don't think Kyle is getting the complete picture. All right, so I am going to go, and I will be back on Monday. I hope that everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. And okay. All right. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will be back. And thanks again to everybody who's written. Thanks to everybody who has commented. Last thing, if you want to support the show, you can go to my website, Mary Grace Media. If you want to go to my website, marygracemedia.com, click on support. You can, there's a couple ways you can do that there. You can also send a paper check if you want to do that. So everybody have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you to my moderators, and thank you to everybody for all of the comments in the chat. I do appreciate it. When you come back to watch the replay, please leave a comment. I do look at those. Sometimes they get deleted. Sometimes the socialist media overlords mess with them. So if I don't see your comment, don't take it personally. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon and a very happy Thanksgiving.